Silvia Gibbons is a humanist, counselor, psychodrama and regression, and past life therapist, as well translator. She is a medium and healer for 30 years and secretary of the British Union Spiritist Society and coordinator of the Chico Xavier Spiritist Society in London. She also is a very good friend of us. And with
I have the honor.
She and together with Elsa, she is responsible for setting our group straight with rules. They always here to support us, and we always call them. So Silvia and Elsa, and it's been more or less 5 years ago when she came here to give our first healing seminar. She with Elsa, they were here 5 years ago, and now she's back here to straighten our alliances, to give us strength for our group. So thank you everyone for coming. I see people from Cork. Couple there, down there. Thank you for coming today. You know, with that spirit. Is anyone from Galway here? No, not today. So it's very good to have everyone. This is amazing seminar because Silvia is amazing. She's the way she talks, you know, it's really sorry.
Oh my gosh, that we're gonna have to be amazing. How am I gonna manage that?
Gianluca does remember you.
I know. I remember him.
He does remember because
He doesn't count.
I was pregnant and he was very little one when she came and stayed by home.
Yeah. He doesn't count. He's biased. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's a real good pleasure to be here. It's lovely. And I hope we will enjoy this today. I'm sure we will. Because I'm learning as well. Because there is one thing, I think is in everything, in life anyway, that we find that the more we learn, the less we know. If you notice that. Because you learn something and then suddenly it's like open up this huge thing and you have this and that, and then you learn that thing and then some more, and you are forever learning. And that's one of the most wonderful things, in being a human person, humankind. Which I am not very fond of political correctness, so I will say humanity when I mean mankind or humankind, as some people put it. This is more or less the agenda that we are going to follow. It's basic what we're going to talk about, but we are flexible. I'd just like to ask you to begin with, because this is going to be a working seminar, okay? We are going to have some of the theory of healing, because it's important for you to know how the process happens. So to begin with, the first thing is important to be clear is that healing, like a mediumship, like anything that we learn in Spiritism, there is nothing paranormal, different, special, or that we are better, or anything like this. This is pure science. Healing, mediumship is pure science. And the scientific part of Spiritism that we are now beginning to catch up. And probably some of you know that Kardec was basically a teacher, a scientist, and he said that if one day what is in the Spirit's book would crash with anything that science had discovered, we should leave the book and follow science. But after 160 years of the Spiritist doctrine, which the CA in April completes the publication of the Spirit's book on the 18th of April, 160 years, we find that science is beginning to catch up with the Spirit's book. And we will talk a little bit about that, okay? So I'd like to ask you, how many of you know healing, has worked as healers, are in the groups, or have never seen any healing, have never received any? Does anybody, where do you find yourselves in?
I'm working.
You are working healer? You are? Okay, so you know how the process happens. Is there anybody here who has never done any healing or worked as healer or even had any? Is there anyone? You? What's your name? Sorry. Paul? Homulu. Oh, okay, so you don't know any, it's, you Homulu? No. You've never done it, but you have received it, yeah? And all about you at the back, I'm sorry. It's the same thing, you've never done or received. So it's the first time for you. Oh, you have received. Okay. So today you are all going to have a chance to see how the other side feels. Okay? So we're going to have a part of that towards the end, after going through, that we will divide the room, and it's so nice because there's so many people here. It'll be lovely. So part of you will be healers to begin with, and then you sit down as patient, and the other person who receive will give. And then we have a little feedback so you can have an idea how it felt like and bring your experience. Would that be all right with you? A bit of history of healing. Healing itself has been part of humanity since we started, since we began, since we were giving our souls, our spirits. It's been part of it. In the caves, you know, when someone hurt or something, they were finding a way of healing. They were finding. So it's been part of us. But I think one of the, you know, like, it's really in the midst of time. We don't know when it started. But in Plato, in one of the books of Plato, that I think is Critias, he talks about that Samos was a Greek man, doctor or something. He went to Egypt where he learned the secrets. And one of the important things like mediumship, like healing, like any of the esoteric sciences were very closed. This was within the knowledge of it, was within the temples, with the oracles. So the ordinary people like us would never have any idea. That was the power that some of those priests in Egypt and Mesopotamia, they had, because they had knowledge. Knowledge is everything. And now, thank goodness, and thanks to Spiritism, we can all share on things that used to be very exclusive to everyone. So he supposedly, the knowledge of healing and cure and everything came from Atlantis. I wasn't going to mention it, but you know, it is. People know about it. Then went to Greece, and it spread out throughout Mesopotamia, and then from Greece to Rome, and from Rome is actually, because once the Romans conquered everything, they took it with them. And in the school of Alexandria, you know about the library in Alexandria, which is in Egypt, where all the knowledge of the world then was kept. Was like this huge computer, but was set fire afterwards. So you see it in the Old and the New Testament, and the many accounts in the book of the Kings, Deuteronomy, Matthew in the New Testament, and throughout the Middle Ages. And even now, we still use healing. And anyone who was a mother or looked after children or seeing children, or even yourself, if you ever hurt yourself or did something, what's the first thing you do? You go, have anybody ever done that? Yeah. That's a form of healing. Did you know that? And Andrea Luiz talks about this in the Missionaries of Life. So there you are. We're all healers already, and we didn't even know it. So the first thing that we will talk about, it's the change that, this is an image that I brought for you, of healing being used in the ancient Egypt with water and, you know, the people around. So they use water like we now drink it. And that, of course, Jesus was the greatest healer. So in order for us to know about the healing, we need to, you know, to be efficient healers, if anything, we need the knowledge. And that's why we're going to talk about universal fluid and the vital fluid. Probably most of you know about, if you come to meetings and you saw the Spirit's book, you have already studied about the universal fluid and the vital fluid. But it's just a very quick reminder that we are going to give here. Many times you see universal cosmic fluid. You see that in the literature a lot, but universal and cosmic is exactly the same thing. I think when the person translated it originally, they put them together because he thought maybe it would look nice. But cosmos, because in Greek, the universe is called cosmos, and in Latin is universal, but it's exactly the same thing. So it's either one or the other. They're both the same, has the same meaning. So the first thing that we think about is fluids. So what is, So fluid, when we read in that question, the Spirit's book, it says fluid. Somebody said to me once, and you see the importance of studying and learning yourself and following what the teaching, who the Spirit teaches. Someone said to me, you can transform, nowadays, we would never use the word fluids because it's energy. Now we call it energy. And I can tell you this is wrong. He taught me wrong. There is a whole science in fluids. It's a completely different thing. The book of the Spirit's book is completely right, and he was changing into energy, which is not true. So the Spirit said, go and learn yourself, do it. So fluid means, it comes from the Mid-English, flowing, that comes from the Old French, fluide, and from the Latin fluids, from fluere and fluo, fluidity and fluidness, is what moves. It's, in physics, they call it, it's a continuous, I'm sorry, I'm going to read this a little bit. It's a continuous amorphous substance whose molecules move freely from one thing to another and take the shape of the vase. So if you see this water here, this water is fluid and it's taking the shape of the glass. But if I put this in a glass, it's the shape of the glass. So that's what the fluid, it takes the shape of whatever it's actually inside, because the molecules are completely broken up, much more than us. And it can be liquid, gas, solid, plasma, and condensates. And there is a whole science of it now, the quantum science, fluid mechanics, which they study. And it's not energy, it's a different kind of energy. It's a different kind of energy. It is energy, but it's a very different kind. It's not substituted, if you see what I mean. So the universal cosmic fluid is the divine plasma, the energy of the Creator, nervous force of all the world wise, and is what André Luiz says there, constellations, suns, worlds, like fish in the ocean, is all within this. Now, just very quickly, it goes, can you move that? That was in evolution towards André Luiz. It's a primitive matter, that's how the Spirit's book explains. A primitive matter that constitutes innumerable varieties of body nature, from the stars to a virus. That's important. And is the visible matter of the universe, solid, liquid, gas, and radiant. That's the thing. And the ethereal is what transforms into material substance, subtle to us, but gross to high spheres, and is spiritualized, but less affinity with matter, and is governed by its own law. So we learn that there is all these differences. Before, we used to know only 3 states: the liquid, the gas, and the solid. Now we already have 6, and there will be a lot more as science develops, and we learn a lot more about the quantum world. And what I want to say to you in there is that this, what André Luiz had called, is this primordial element, is what science begins to call now dark energy or dark matter, which dark energy, 73% of our universe. And this is very interesting, because sometimes when you talk to people, the scientists, the materialists, they say, oh, I don't believe I can see it. Our universe is formed, 73% of the universe is dark energy, unseen. 23% of our universe is dark matter, what they call dark matter, which is also unseen. So from this glass to the highest, the largest, the biggest constellation or galaxy in the universe is only 4%. We actually only see 4% of the whole of our universe. So when people say, oh, I don't believe it because I don't see it, he doesn't even see the world he lives in, let alone, other things. But I think one of the things that's very interesting is that dark matter, they've been studying that because before they couldn't accept it, of course, can't see it, and it cannot be proved. And in a way, what quantum science is doing is changing the way people see the world and see science, because that thing, that the empirical way that, oh yeah, I see it, I prove it, I have to do it, and then I say, no, it exists because I can prove it. Now it's completely different. We cannot prove anything. You have to give this leap of faith, as they call it, and first you have to believe that it's there, to go there and try to find it, which is upside down, and still there is a lot of things to go, but it's changing very, very quickly, and there's all these wonderful young people now that already are born with this knowledge, so they don't have to fight the backlog of science. But the important thing is also they've called dark matter because it could not be seen. In reality, they were doing studies on it, and they stopped because they came to the conclusion that with the parameters that we have in science now, it's impossible to study dark matter, let alone dark energy, because it's not dark, it's pure light. And it goes through things, and it transforms, and they've learned enough to see that. And it's light, is whitest, purest light. So it's not dark at all. It's just beautiful light that we are going to find. Anyway, Juliana, like having small children, they probably will be able to learn things like that. So this ethereal that spiritual world is made of, is made from a different kind of matter. So there is lots of different matters. There is the solid one, because gravity pulls us to it. And there is the spiritual world is made with matter, with a different kind of matter. The only thing that's not material is the spiritual principle. Can you move on? Oh, I forgot to tell you something. At the end of the first, when we finish more or less the subject, if you want to ask a question, okay? We'll be able to do that. So the fluids have more affinity with the spirits that constitute the substance which form the spiritual world. So they're more fluidic. That's why when people say they saw ghosts, they go through walls, because they are more fluidic. They can go, the matter is not so dense as ours. But it's still matter, that's important. But it's a different type. And it's a state of the cosmic fluid. The spiritual matter is more or less refined. So is a lot less, more refined than the matter that we have here, although it can still be dense. And even in the spiritual world, we have different types of matter. If anybody reads André Luiz, and when sometimes they come from Nosso or to different places, like in the fourth book, Obreiros, that they had to put extra body, otherwise they cannot be seen by the spirits in that area. So they make themselves denser. You probably read this in André Luiz. So you can see that what they say is exactly that, because even within the material that is formed in the spiritual world, there is that difference in matter as well, more dense, less, and less, until the point that won't be any matter left, just spirit. So this, and one of the things that is, it cannot be perceived by us. So only the intelligent principle is truly spiritual, and the intelligent principle is our spirit. So in healing, the cosmic universal fluid is manipulated by the spirits through thoughts. So we are going to see as well that the importance for us to educate our thoughts. I'm terrible. I can tell you that without. I try and I try. I'm going to positive thoughts today. Positive, I'm going to be positive. And then I get to the tube and some 18-year-old pushed me off with a hand to sit in the seat because he's too busy with his mobile phone. And sometimes I have to tell you, I lose it. I get really annoyed. So we're trying. But this is all part of it, and it's important to learn about these things. Because some of you may be thinking, why are we learning about dark matter, dark energy, vital principle? What is this? I want to know about healing. But you need to understand the process. You need to know what you're manipulating. Because once you know something, you can work on it. You learn from it. Whatever, because you will see, as you become healers and as you work, you see that every person who sits there is a different thing. You have different reactions coming to you. And so if you know how things are, what is working, then you can work on that. And we will talk more about that when we work just before the... So this is very important to know, that where everything comes from. And the process that happens is that is matter, this very harified matter, is manipulated by thoughts and done by the spirits and us. So when we see the relationship between healer and patient, then we'll be able to see that. So very briefly, because I gone overboard and I probably talk, because I'm sorry to say this to you, but I'm really bad with technology. I probably already told you everything that's in there now. If you move, please, just very, very quickly. I didn't mention this, but it's good for you to see, because if you wanted to take note of the bibliography where I got some of the stuff from, you can take notes so you can go back and read it, which is important as well. So you can see you made lots of mistakes and you can correct me next time. So the fluid elements of the spiritual world escape the analysis and a perception of our senses, and which are being devised to perceive tangible matter, not ethereal matter. That was Kardec, 156 years ago, saying that. And it's still true. We still can't see, our instruments cannot see this ethereal matter. The only thing now is that we know it actually exists. It's being more or less proved that the measuring, because one of the interesting things about what you were saying before, the dark energy, that the two scientists who actually discovered it had already been proposed anyway in 1923 by this German scientist. But they were trying to prove why doesn't the universe sort of, hit each other? Why there is this harmony? Why is if it's expanding, why doesn't, it goes and hit each other? And the study was the very opposite which they found, because they have this energy into everything sort of flows in it. It's exactly what André Louis said in 1946, that everything is like fish in an ocean, everything is there, galaxy is in even us. So the three states of matter, have I gone further? So in healing, you have the fluid agent, the quality of the fluid. And what we... can you pass for me? I put some nice pictures as well, so you can see. Can imagine we're all sunbathing in Barbados or something. So the various states of matter. That's what I was saying to you, the ice, the water, and the gas, which was the true original states that everybody knew. And then now there are 6 new forms, which is solid, liquid, gas, plasma, the Bose-Einstein condensates, phase. This Bose was an Indian scientist, Vada or something. And this is almost, when they reach almost zero temperature, that everything freezes in a completely different way. It transforms into a different type of thing. And then you have the fermionic, which comes from Fermion, which was an Italian scientist as well, and he gave the name to the condensate, which the temperature actually is even lower than the condensates of Einstein and Bose. I mean, we could be talking about this for 2 days, but I'm not a scientist, so I can't talk to you about 2 days on this. But this is the fluid mechanics, so anybody who is interested and like to read more about it. I just put some picture here so you can have an idea what I was talking about. You know, you see the ice, that beautiful statue of ice that somebody done, and how that photograph was, I think it was a microscope or something, that you can see actually the bubble of the water. You see liquid water there. And then you see the condensate, and then the plasma, which is lightning, is plasma. Yeah. So you have the changes of state. This is, I'm going to go brief on this. Yeah, we're not going to be studying science all the time here. But it's just for you to have an idea how when you are sitting there, actually someone and you're giving healing, somebody is giving healing, what is maybe is happening in the process. Yeah? So you have the melt, the evaporation, and then ice goes to water, to steam, and then you have the solid, the liquid, and gas. And then you see melt, evaporation, condensation, freezing. And then you have all this. That it melts the gas to the liquid, the sublimation where the gas becomes solid, condensing when it becomes gas, and boiling. In, you know, like this company I know, I worked for, they have these huge tanks where they find gas, and they freeze it, so the gas becomes liquid and cannot escape. That's the problem, what they call it, condensing. And the boiling as well. So you have all that, yeah, with the plasma and its energy. Okay, so this is all different kinds of fluids and stuff. Okay, this is state of matter as well, we've already seen. Now, that's one interesting thing, because plasma can only be seen outside in the universe, but not on Earth. So when I said to you that we actually are giving this leap of faith that there's such a thing exists, because we cannot prove here on our planet. In the state of the material that we have here, we can prove it. But we know it exists. So that's where plasma is. And you have all these little dots, so you can look at them and laugh. If you're passing on the images, so people have an idea of the different states of the fluids. Yeah? That's the beautiful wave. So if you wanted to go nice, you know, to put with your juice, your orange juice would be nice. And this is a photograph of a snowflake. And each one has a different drawing. They are different. Each snowflake is different. How it freezes. Look how beautiful. I mean, this was like, I don't know how many thousands, millions of, you know, increase this to see it. But they are absolutely beautiful. And we're going to talk a little bit about the influence in water of our thoughts. So that's snow, that's ice, in different forms, that ice, well. That's how we see clouds in the sky, you know, is the condensate. Yeah? So, okay, the condensate, we can go, because, you know, we've already talked a lot about this. There's a plasma. This is pure plasma. It's a supernova. It's very famous, this picture. It was taken by the Hubble telescope of a galaxy that had, you know, just exploded. And these are the two scientists who are talking about, Bose and Einstein. And so fluids is a high state of purification. So we have the solid, and then we have the fluid, which is a higher state. And within that there are many, many divisions. Okay, so that's another thing, you know, imaginary, but it's the plasma too. That's as well as a star that explodes. Okay, now we're going to come near to what we want to know. I just wanted for you to have an idea of the things that there is nothing, absolutely nothing, like I said to begin with, that mysterious. You know, it's the only thing that was mysterious that we had not known about all this scientific part. And of course it will develop much more and much more. So now is the vital fluid. So it's a source that lies in the cosmic universe, what we call magnetic, electric, animalized, and the union of matter with the vital principle creates life. So you have this amazing energy going around and everything. And when it joins with matter, then it becomes life. It's like you have a body. I remember someone saying to me, they study medicine, when they first found had to work with a dead body. And she was telling me how, horrible was, the body. I mean, I thought it was horrible. But then she said, no, you don't feel it. It doesn't feel human. It's almost like a rubber or something. It's really strange. And of course, because there is no life, and we know that when in the process of death, we start going from the feet up, once the spirit leaves, the spiritual benefactor come and take the rest of your vital fluid to turn back to the universe, and the body then will deteriorate immediately. That holds it. So this is important because it's the union of the vital principle with this energy, with the matter. It becomes life, becomes us, becomes the animals, the birds, whatever. So I thought this is life in the most beautiful way. Yeah. Okay. So the vital fluid. The vital fluid is between the spirit and matter. It's almost like a go-between what unites them, joins them together. And you have to realize as well that we're going to talk about the perispirit soon. It's joined, but not in a sense that lives within. It expands, it's flowing between us. That's why sometimes when someone is really nice, a person that's very good, and you feel sit next to them, you feel well. Even if you don't know, sometimes you're in the past. And it's because of the goodness, the perispirit expands and you sense it. Your perispirit joins them. That's why it's nice to have good thoughts and, always assuming nice thoughts to people. So this matter as well, it's different in the different species. We all have it, but it's different. And it's different as well from within the species. Some people are stronger physically, they have a lot more strength. Other people are a bit sickly, they're weakly, so they might not have as much vital, like, other people. And from person to person, when you're well, when you're happy, when things are going well, and, you're physically healthy, you will have more of this vital fluid than when you have a cold and you don't feel like going to work and you're a bit tired. So you're lower. Okay. So that's important here because on death, the matter is decomposed and goes to serve the other body. Like Lavoisier once said, nothing is lost, everything is transformed. And that's, this, because it will become something else. And the vital principle goes back to the universe. So that's, it joins back. This is chapter 4 of the Spirit's book. So I just put things there, so if you want to write down, you can go and read it. Yeah, thank you. I like dolphins, you noticed that, didn't you? Because the sea is so beautiful, it's so lovely, and they seem to be so alive. Yeah? So that's the vital fluid. We talked about this. The universal fluid, and, with the difference that there is within the beings and the species, and from time to time we ourselves. See, I jump, I talk faster than the slides go. So this quantity it becomes exhausted. So when we grow old, if you say you have a little child, those who have little children, they know how hard it is sometimes to keep up with a 4-year-old, that they climb, they jump, they go, they here, they there. And then you sit down and say, okay, they're all right now. And when you see them, they're already climbing something else. And, they like the sea. You can never turn your back on children. So it's because they have the full force of the vital principle on them. They are full. But then, an old people, like, not devout, of course. I was talking about he's different. But, 17-year-old, or maybe the 40-year-old who sits next to me at work, I'm so old. Oh, I'm going to die. Oh, and he's only 45 or 40 or something. So as we grow older, we lose the vital principle. We've been using it. Of course, we can replenish it when we eat. If you worked all day, especially if you did a lot of physical or mental work as well, it makes you lose a lot of your energy. So you can eat, you can sleep, you can drink water, or you can breathe, because the air also fills us because it's all around us. So when you breathe, that's why people do meditation or do deep breathing exercises or yoga. They seem always healthier. It's because they work a lot on their breathing. So maybe something, to think about. If you're feeling very tired, just sit down or stop somewhere and just take deep breaths. And you may lift a little bit of your energy if you're feeling very tired or something, because we get from there. But and through skin as well, we think, in food, and that's why it's so good for us to eat more healthy, raw food, things that are not cooked to death, because there is more energy in eating a salad or fruit or something. I know, they have this thing about juicers and things, but and it's nice and everything, but I think if you eat an apple, it's better than if you have it, completely smashed, everything to the molecular level, But that's one of the new things. So this is... and also, which is important for our seminar today, is the fact that it can be absorbed as well and passed from one to another. That's why we have, the healing is so important. And that's the part that's relevant for what we are going to see, that you can also transmit from yourself to another person. Okay? That's the sun, look at that, blowing, And this thing comes here and you cannot use your phones. Your mobile phones, everything stops, because one of those flames came all the way from the sun here, and everything stopped. When was it? Like 2007, wasn't it? In Canada or something, that everything stopped. I'd like to be flying to Dublin that day. Can we go forward? Yeah. You see, look at this beautiful picture that they take of water. I'm sorry I've been bombarding you with all these pictures, but I found, oh my God, this is so lovely. I'm going to show them. Because you see, normally you wouldn't be able to see this with your, naked eye. It's only through the microscope so that they can photograph these things. Yeah? Rainbows, we all love the rainbows. It looks like Ireland here, doesn't it? The rain and rainbow. Okay, so the definition of healing. Now we're going proper, the healing proper. From, is anybody like to ask a question so far? Is there anything you didn't quite get? Or?
About the energy.
Yes.
With fluid, it would be not actually energy, it's just a part of what other energies would we have?
Okay, it is a form of energy, but it's not, how can I put it? It is a form of energy it's ethereal, it's much more dematerialized. It's a different form of energy. You cannot translate one to the other. It's a more rarefied. It's like in Einstein theory of relativity, MC and square and all that. It's a complete, that matter becomes energy and energy becomes matter. That's more or less that. But it's a different kind. It's not like energy. You can say that fluids is energy, because it's in a higher state of energy. Energy would be more like something more material. That's how I understand it. It may be some of you here are physicists and can tell me wrong, and please do, because I like to learn if I'm saying something that's not correct. But it's a different kind. You couldn't say everything now is energy, because you don't use the terms fluid anymore. That was the thing, you know. So, oh, you use fluid then, and now you use energy. You see, you can't have that. It is energy, it's the fluids, but it's a different state that you find that energy. So it's not, you know, one thing's the other. Or you can substitute the nomenclature for that, because it's very specific. And how we saw, even within the spiritual world, we find different levels of energy as well. You know, if you read André Luiz, like in the Messengers, when they come, the first time he comes, so they have to go through, and as they come down and down and down, become more and more and more tired, and how hard it is for them to walk, because they already are more horrified. It's in Ossular. Yeah. So, okay, so here, for the definition of healing itself, so it's a transfusion. It's like a blood transfusion, but you're transfusing energy from one person to another without the needles. But sorry. That, you know, is the renewed physical force. Spiritual healing is a transfusion of psychic energies, with the differences that the physical resources are drawn from a limited reservoir, the medium, and the psychic elements from an unlimited reservoir of spiritual forces, which comes from the whole of the universe. There is no limit for the energy that you can get from there. That's from Emmanuel. So healing is a transmission of energies altering the cellular constitution. This is what André Luiz says in the domain of mediumship in the chapter 19, which he talks about healing, passes like it is in Brazil. So you see there that alters the cellular constitution of the body. So you can see that how important the work of a healer is. We're going to talk afterwards about what is necessary for a healer, because you'll be changing somebody's constitution at a cellular level. The responsibility is big. That's why we study about these vital fluids and all that. That's important for the work. So the transmission of fluids coming direct from the spiritual world, manipulated by the spiritual benefactors and channeled to the incarnate healers who contribute to part to their own particular energy with aim of assisting the patient. So this incredible energy that's floating without aim throughout the universe, the spiritual benefactors are able to gather that energy, to focus this energy through the medium, or the healer, which is mediums are healers are mediums anyway, and through them, through the hands, into somebody else. So that is a whole process of work that the spiritual benefactors will do, even before we go to the place where we are going. They're already working on it. And I insist on that because it's important to know that is a very important work, that healing is a very important work. Yeah, can you move? And this is a picture of Jesus healing the blind man. In the Gospels, there are two stories of Jesus healing the blind. I think the one is the blind of Jericho, and the other one is the man who was born blind. I don't know if you know the story of the Gospel, but in one, Jesus goes with his hands and just they do something, and he becomes, he sees the light. But in the man who was born blind, the Gospel tells us that Jesus got some of the dust from the floor, from the ground. He spit on it, made like a mass, and put in that person's eyes. And then he was able to wash it, and he was able to see. And Jesus was such a spirit of advancement, of enlightenment, that we cannot conceive. We wouldn't be able to do that kind of healing. But in the one who probably had something that he just could manipulate, the own energy of the eye, that probably was standing still or something. But the other one, because he had been born blind, he might not have had the nerves or something was failing in the eye, you know, in a physical level for him to, but once he got that mass and did something, he put in the eye, so he created whatever was lacking in that person's eyes. That's very important. It's a beautiful story from the Gospel. We all need to read the Gospel because they are beautiful stories. Okay, so we see that it's a whole team of workers. We may be one or two in a room working, but there is a whole team of workers. You probably know that whenever we have, we're doing any work, when you come to the center, for instance, the places where you go for study, whatever it is, a center or a room we rent, most of us rent rooms in different places. Long before any of us go there, the spiritual benefactors are already working there. They are cleansing the ambient. They are creating space that is almost sacred for us to work. Because a lot of the work cannot, if it's contaminated and in bad and everything, it never, the work doesn't work very well. So in many places where you have a place of prayer and a place of healing, I don't know if you've ever been to any place like that. As you go in, you feel the difference. Have you ever been to any place where they only have healing there? You feel the difference, don't you? It's almost like something lifts you up. It's a lovely thing. But we can create that, and the spiritual benefactors do. So, you know, like Andrea Louise says, they always created a circle of protection, so some spirits cannot come in. I always, since I read that, Andrea Louise, I always pray for the spirits that are on the outside of, you know, they are not able to come in because whatever. So I always pray that they also be blessed. And it's interesting because sometimes we have spirits coming to our mediumship who were actually outside before. So we had an experience the other day that said, oh, I used to be out there, but now I was being allowed in. So, you know, is that important? The work we do is extremely important. I really like, I'm repetitive. You see that I'm repetitive. The things that I find that's important, I will repeat again and again, because I need to learn it. Sometimes I forget myself. So here we are. The benefactors who already prepared the ambient, closed down, did everything. It's already been working there even before we got up in the morning. And we are there in the evening. So everything, the whole process of healing starts there. Also, sometimes it starts with us as well, while we're sleeping. If there is someone who will come, who is in need, the benefactors, their guardian angels, will say, oh, they are going to go there, or they're going to have an intuition to go to that place. And you know you're going to work with that person. The spirits already work with us while we are sleeping. They are working our spirit, and we're already preparing ourselves for the work in the evening. So that is all this. Everything is connected. It's the wonder and the beauty of the universe that everything is connected in a good, wonderful level. So, and the benefactor starts the process. The healer is the one who gives, and the patient is the one who receives. And we both get something out of it. The healers, most of all, I think they get quite a lot. So there are true legions of spiritual practitioners protecting and assisting human beings regardless of their beliefs or religious faith. And then recalling the influence of Jesus, I began healing the poor lady's eyes, realized that a large shadow of path covered her forehead. This too comes from Missionaries of Light and Messengers, Andrea Louise books, the Chico, which those books are the continuation, the explanation, the expansion of the basic books of the doctrine. those books are extremely important. If you read the codification, the basic of the codification, which are very, very important, many things you will only really truly understand if you continue reading the 14 books of the Andrea Luiz collection. They are work for thousands of years. The things that they have there, it wasn't even discovered before he talked about it. So they are important. But what he says that Alexandre, of course, is the tutor, is the mentor of Andrea Luiz as they go around. How many people has actually read Nosso Lar? Oh, there's a lot of people. Those who haven't, go and read it because it's wonderful. So they going around, and he says, you see, there are legions of spirit. And I remember in one of the passages of the book, they go, I think it was an accident or something, and the ambulance there, and the nurses and things are working with the person, and the spiritual benefactors are there, helping the nurse, helping the doctors, helping the victim. And it's nothing to do, because everyone that works in a caring way, doctors, nurses, midwives, if you are talking to someone, a friend who is in trouble, who's got problem, someone who's not well, and you are talking to them, one of them will be with you. I don't know, you probably have felt sometimes when you talk to someone, a friend came, I have such a trouble, and and they say, and you talk, and then suddenly you talk about things, and you say, and it's, do you know, it was so nice talking to you, it was so good. And then after you say, how did I say that? Where did that come from? That I became so wise suddenly. I don't know, you probably all have experience like that someone saying, oh, you felt really well after I talked to you. But one of those people were there next to us, giving us the ideas of what to say to that person who at that moment was in need of something. So, we are all the time working. We never off duty as healers, as human beings really, because healers and human beings, that's what we are really, or we should be. And there he's covering that he's giving a healing. This is for someone who had arrived, and but you read the story because you have to read the book. I will not tell you what happens after this. Okay, and they go forward. So, who is who in healing? There are two parts of the process, the healer and the patient. The success or failure of the fluid therapy will depend on the direct attitude of both parties. So, can we move on? Okay. So, sometimes you can be giving healing to someone and you've done everything possible to help, and you feel the healing hits you back. I had this experience once. I'm healing and I'm, there praying, and I could feel the strength of the healing, and it was like there was this tap running, and do you know when you put your hand underneath the tap water, the water spreads everywhere. You know how it is like that. It was exactly like that. I had the feeling that the healing was going everywhere, but it was not getting to that person. For whatever reason, they were so closed up, they were not receiving the healing. So what I did, probably under inspiration, was to imagine that healing that was spreading out was cleansing whatever was holding that person from receiving it, and then they could receive it. So, things that we are going to talk more when we go to the practical, yeah? But also, sometimes if the healer is not very well, it also happens the opposite. And it happened to me once, not in the YouTube this. I had a very hard day at work. There was a lot of very irritating things, and I went, and I wasn't very good at all that day. And I went early and I prayed and asked, help. But I knew that I had such, when you have that's really, when everybody seems to test your patience and understanding, was one of those days really hard. And I didn't feel really that I was up to healing, but we didn't have enough healers. The person in charge, I told them, I said, you'll be all right. And you do it. If anybody tells you you're going to be all right, say, no, I'm not going to give healing today. Because maybe I'll be all right. And I prayed and prayed and prayed. But I wasn't all right. All that irritation of the day, I started having really negative thoughts bombarding me. I was connecting, God knows with what. And then suddenly I started feeling like someone was going like this in my throat. And I started to cough and cough and cough, that I had to stop giving healing. I could not go because I wasn't right. I shouldn't have, you'll be all right. No, you're not going to be all right. Today, if we don't have any healers, today we're going to have collective healing. We all pray, and we're going to talk about that. So you need to know yourself as a healer when you can or you cannot do. Because, like the person who was for some reason so blocked of receiving, I was in such a bad situation that I wasn't properly, really well enough to give. But, when you're young, and I was inexperienced, spiritually speaking, I wasn't that young, but I didn't know much about Spiritism. So I give you this piece of experience that I have, so you can stand your ground. And someone said, oh, no, you'll be all right, you do it. No, I don't feel well enough. I am not going to do it, because it's a big responsibility to be a healer, really. So what do we need from a healer? I think from the example I just gave you, it gives you a very good idea what is necessary for a healer, really. The healer is the incarnate spirit that can help the patient by transmitting the spiritual fluids as well as part of his own vital fluid at a level of evolution. That's what we most need. So this, when we are giving healing, the spiritual benefactors, as I said, will focus the energy that from the universe, focus into the healer, and part of your own vital principle will need it, will be necessary. Because in reality, if you think in terms of the spirits don't need us. They don't need us to be mediums, and they don't need us to be healers. They could do it themselves. But that part that is given to us is to give us an opportunity to serve, to learn how. So this is a gift that's given to us. And because also both of us, the healer as well as the patient, are in a situation that we still need that energy, that material energy. That's why we have a mediumship work. Because the spirits, some of them have lost that kind of feeling of a physical body. So when they go transmitting through the medium, they feel the sensation of the body, and that's sometimes when you can actually reach them, to talk to them, to explain what's going on. And it's more or less the same with the healers. We need to be, we are the between, the go-between one world and the next. So you need to be clean. Imagine this beautiful water. And have you noticed this water? Anybody noticed this water? How it's become more and more. There's so many bubbles inside it now. That was clear before. You could see right through. Now there's so many bubbles. Afterwards you can come and see it. You see, the spirits are probably working in this water, so you'll be able to drink it afterwards. But if you put something dirt there, the water is not, the water is clean, but if this vase, this container was dirty, it would pollute the water. So we need to be as good as we can possibly be. And I'm not saying that we have to be angels, because we are not at the moment. We are not at the moment. I always say this in my group, we are all angels. We are children of God. We are angels in the making. One day, we are going to be on a Saturday afternoon, somewhere in the universe, I don't know where, And we'll be all together. Oh, do you remember that day we were there in Dublin? And we're talking about healing. Oh my God, you see your wings have grown and you become so beautiful. Because that's who we are. We are angels in the process of making. We are this amazing diamond. When it's like, I always visualize things. I need to do that in my head. But when you get a diamond, unless a person is a real expert, he doesn't recognize it. I wouldn't be able to, because you needed to have certain knowledge. But the only thing that polishes a diamond is another diamond. So you have this, and then the light comes from within, most beautiful, most brilliant. And that's exactly how we are. The only thing that can polish us is somebody else, is another human being, through our experiences of being loved, being beaten up, being betrayed, being, all sorts of things that life brings to us, a sense of loss, everything, what we lose, people we love, and death takes people. Some of them move away, and it's like part of us we go. Every time we lose a little bit of us. But on the other hand, we grow. Because when you talk to someone who have a loss, who have either by death or somebody who left, like most of us live here, our families live back in Brazil or wherever they are. You have that connection, but that sense of loss. So when someone said, oh, I really miss my family, I really wish that, my mom's birthday, I wish I was there giving her flowers, giving her a hug this morning, you know exactly what they mean. We know how it feels not to have that, because we have the experience. And that's why God doesn't punish us. God is forever merciful. So we go through this experience, so we learn to have empathy. Is that being polished? So the light that we have within us, the light of God, who's our Father, who gave us everything we have, or Mother, like some people like to think God is a mother, everybody's happy. But we shine, we will shine, we will be brilliant. And we are brilliant. And I think we need to begin to think that, that we are brilliant people, we are wonderful, we are loving, we are caring, we give ourselves, we give our time, we serve. We need to start thinking about this, because that's what we become. Many times say, oh, I'm not good enough. I don't think I'm going to go to the center today, because honestly, I never learn. Come on, snap out of it. Go, learn, serve, do, because you already are. We already be giving the light. It's just working on it to make, like Aladdin's lamp, Do you know when Aladdin found the lamp, he didn't know what was inside? That's a very good example, actually, because he didn't know. It was only when his mom went crazy polishing the thing that the genie came out, Isn't that so? So we need to feel that we are already good. We are going to be good here because we are good people. There. I'm sorry, I don't mean to preach. So part of our fluid will go to serve the person, because the energy, and because as we are still very materialized, the person also is, and they will need that extra that may be lacking. So the healer has the opportunity to give himself to serve the person in need. And this is a chance how to manipulate spiritual fluids, because we are basically spirits, and we need to start learning how to use it and how to work on it. So the patients as well. A lot of people, and you find this in therapy. People come and say, I want therapy. And I had a client like that. She came and she said, oh, I came here because I want you to tell me what to do. I've got lots of problems. And I tried to say to her, I'm sorry, I'm here to hear you finding your own solutions for your life. I can't tell you what to do. I'm here to help you find your own answers. It was very funny because she got up and said, you're not a good enough therapist, because when my friends ask me what to do, I tell them. So, and I came here, so you could tell me, you're probably a very bad therapist, and she just walked away. But as funny as it is, I suffer from the same meal. Because sometimes I just would like someone to tell me what to do. It's hard to imagine, it's hard to decide, it's hard to think what. And then, you get a friend and you just dump all your life on them. Because we want someone to tell us what to do. And so sometimes the person who comes for healing, they just want us to cure them. They don't want you to think about things. They just want, oh, we'll go and have a healing, and they feel better. And then, oh, that healer is not very good. I'm feeling bad. As soon as I come out, I'm already feeling ill. But there is something to be the patient as well. You have you need to be someone who wants to be healed, who wants to be helped. That your heart to be open to receive whatever it is. And also, we need to take responsibility as patients, as clients, whatever it is that we call them. We call patients, but the person who is in need. Not only there's a part of it, you as a healer, you prepare yourself, you do the best you can, but the person needs to want to do it. Wants to receive it, needs to do something about it and change their lives as well. So because basically we are all healers. Do you know there's an expression, it's in England people talk about this, although some of these expressions are dying out now. God help those who help themselves. It's an old-fashioned expression, but it exists. And in a way, we are, because no matter how much healing, how much prayer, how much love you put into that, how much energy, if the person does not want to receive it, does not want to, they won't. And we cannot do it. And sometimes, some of us, those who think we have to solve the problem of the world, and we carry the world here like Atlas in our shoulder, because that person is sad, but you need to go and console them, and that person needs this, and oh yes, look, that's half of my salary, there you are for you. This sometimes we want to save everybody, especially when you start learning about serving and spiritism, and you want everybody to be happy, and we have to realize that no matter, not even Jesus, not God himself coming to earth, would be able to help someone who does not want to have the help. I think we need to be realistic as well. We do our part, and the other person will do theirs, because they are their own healers. We are the instrument of helping them, but they have to get things on their hand. It's like going to an arena, getting the bull by the horn, and so I'm going to fight you now. So there's you. Can you? Anybody have a question on that? No? Okay. So it's a question of merit as well. Any place where there's merit, part of those who suffer and goodwill on the part of those who help, you provide spiritual benefit with relative efficiency. This also is the mentor Alexander in André Luiz. And I think what he's talking here about merit, because when you first read it, you think, I'm not deserving. Only the people who have merit. Then it makes you think that, only someone who's special will be able to be helped. But that's not what he means. That was, I think, exactly what I was saying before, that you need to want to do something for yourself as well. The merit is there because we wanted to participate in our own healing and take hold of it and help ourselves. So that's another picture of Jesus with the other man. Yeah? Did we see it before? Yeah, please. So healer and patient. Just one point here, though. We talk about healing in a Spiritist center because that's what we are most talking about here today, but it can be anywhere, healing. If you see someone in a bus or in a tube and they are not very happy, or you feel they are a bit, sometimes you sit next to someone, you feel they are down or something, you can send them a prayer. That's a healing. You can send healing. It's like sometimes you see people in a bus or in a tube, and you look at them, and for all intents and purposes, they look really okay. But then you look at them, I don't know, there's something, it's like your heart goes out to them, And I'm thinking about something that happened the other day, and I'm already teary, which is not part of the work here today. But it's just that, the only thing you can do, you don't know what they have, you don't know what the problem is, but there must be something in there that are putting out, that they are in despair, and you feel it. So, you just send them a prayer and ask God to help them and to watch over them. That's healing as well. Or when you talk to a friend and they need your help, or just listen to completely stupid conversation, and you think, oh God, I wish I would be home. But that's healing as well. There are many forms of healing. But we are talking here specifically of the healer in a Spiritist center, so it's more involved. Thank you. That's the one that I told you about, that Jesus actually got the mud and made something. And actually, you see, in this one, he's actually touching him. That was the blind man. And it's interesting because in this passage of the gospel, the apostles afterwards asked Jesus a question: who sinned? Did he sin, or did his parents sin? And Jesus said, neither. And then he explains that, probably what you can understand, that maybe he in the past did something. But we're not going to start the Gospels today. Maybe another time we will do the Gospel. It's so beautiful. I wish people would read the Gospels more, because everything that you read in literature is there already. So mental and emotional requirement. So here we see that, does anybody like to read this? Rather than me going on and on all the time. Does anybody like to read this for us? Some work? Wakey, rising, shine, everyone.
It's not possible to provide constructive energies to patients if we waste these vital resources. Excessive resentment, anxiety, depression constitute barriers which stop the beneficial energies. From Missionaries of Light, André Louise. The energy transmitted by the spiritual friends circulates firstly on the head of the medium, in the domain of mediumship by André Louise. The healer's mind must be filled with positive thoughts, his heart sending out vibrations of fraternal love.
Okay, so it's interesting because this all comes from those chapters I said. I think one is 17, 13, and the other one is 19, from the Missionaries of Light 13 and the Main Mediums chapter 19, when he talks about healing, that they are in this place, in a center where there are healers there and the spiritual benefactors, and they come and talk and they explain lots of things. So if you remember the story I told you about me, that I was really had a hard day, and I had been irritated, and I had a lot of problems and everything. So you see, I had already a barrier here. I was really resenting the day I had and the people who had upset me and being rude to me, and I couldn't cope, well enough to forgive, to let go. So I wasn't, I had anxiety. I was feeling really low because, when it's almost like you're drained of your energies as well, especially if you have a day that's so conflicting. So that's what he said, you can't, because your body is not working to its full capacity. I was probably full of blockages. The nervous system was probably in pieces. That day, I was the one needing to sit down for healing rather than giving. Because it's important as well sometimes to recognize that as healers, we need help. There is an expression that who takes care of the carers? It's a Latin expression, which is really true, because who takes care of the carers? Sometimes as a carer, you need to sit down and say, I need help today. It's a little bit of humility, because sometimes people feel that they have to be always on the go and they always need. But as human beings, we are weak sometimes and we need help. And it's good to be able to say, I need help today, in every breath of our lives, really. So, and there is nothing, if you think about this, if you read this, there is nothing, like people saying it's obsessors, or, like some spiritists, they are love obsessors, they blame them for everything. And it's not, it's physically. It's your nervous system. It's because you're irritated, you're annoyed, or you're tired, or you have been ill, or something. It's your nervous system it's not working. It's your body, it's your physical body. There is no one outside. Sometimes there is. Sometimes when you get in certain situations, there is all your little friends waiting to jump in, but not always. But it starts always from us, that physically, emotionally, and psychologically, we are not up to do that. So sometimes we need to be able to say we need help. But also, there are many things we can do. We can take care of ourselves. We have to decide what we want to be. And I'm telling you this today, more for me than anybody else. Sometimes we need to decide what we want to be. Do we want to be happy, or do we want to be miserable? Do we want to be always the sad queen? Working past life therapy, I found that almost, not always, but almost everyone who's always suffering, oh my God, I suffer so much. You don't suffer like me. I think we all know someone like that. I have a head, I'm not feeling, I have a bit. Oh, but my headache is bigger than yours. Oh no, you don't have headaches like I do. My pain is death pain. I know someone who's really sweet, but she's like that. But what do we do then? We yes, we have to. We have to say no. And when this happens, most of these people were sacrifices in previous lives, almost always, because it was special. They were taken to the temples, they were treated like gods because they were going to be offered, and they had the best food, best thing, better, and then they were offered to the gods. So, when they come back sometimes in this life, and they suffer because they have attention, a lot of people have past life, so we can change that. And we can decide as well if we're going to be happy. Life is hard, it's painful, can be really, really, really hard. But it's not the things in itself, but how we see things. We can make a tragedy of something simple, and there are people who have real difficult lives and they don't make that much fuss. So I think it's a question of decision, because I personally, even though we have that in the gospel, I personally, I tell you, I think we came here to this world to be happy. I don't believe in suffering. I suffer sometimes because, I'm a drag queen, but we came here to be happy. Do you know that we are all here today, more or less. We have, our lives, the difficulties and things. But do you know, when you get up in the morning, and you can get up in the morning, go have your shower, have your breakfast, see your family. Do you know what blessing that is? I wonder how many times we stop to think what a blessing it is that you can get up yourself. You don't need to wait for a carer or anyone to come and help you. That we can, like when I arrived this morning here in Dublin, it was sunny, and Ali said to me, you brought the sun. It's beautifully sunny today in Dublin. And I said, yes, I know. Every time I come to Dublin, it's always a bit rainy, a bit. Do you know what a blessing it is to see the sun in the morning? To have the eyes to see it. To have a look at the sky when it's getting warm, light, you know, a bit dark. And you look at this half moon, and next to it, this planet Venus shining. Do you know what a blessing it is? And everybody's looking to their mobile phones. They have this world that's full of beauty and wonder. And they are inside this mobile phone. You know, they don't even see the people around. We need to get up sometimes. Take care. See the beauty of the world. Integrate this beauty within us. See this beautiful sky. Everything is free. We breathe for free. You know? And we have to be happy. I'm going to be happy. And to be happy as well, we have to help ourselves. We have to help our bodies. We have to have, you know, a little bit health food. Sometimes I eat too many chocolates. I shouldn't. But, you know, have some discipline in our lives to, you know, to sleep well, to sleep properly, take some time to sleep. Take away from our bedrooms television, iPads, iPhones, so that blue light in your eyes takes forever for your eyes to get used to the darkness, to sleep. Put those things away, look at them, put them away, and then go to bed. Say a prayer, ask God for blessings for your night, for your family, for whatever. This is an incredible blessing. We don't see sometimes how blessed we are. So that's, you know, we feel a bit unhappy. And when we are unhappy, when things are bad, or when you feel overwhelmed, go to a friend, dump on them, you know, say, excuse me. I always remember that film, Crocodile Dundee. I don't know if it's an old movie. And he's invited to this big party, I don't know if you remember that, in the house of that girl he meets. And then, you know, he was talking to this lady, and then the girl who had invited him said, oh, you know, that lady you were talking to, she was a bit funny. And then he said, oh my God, I said, we're all mad here. And she said, well, you know, but she's okay, she's got a good shrink. You know, meaning she got a good psychiatrist. And he said, well, but doesn't she have any friends? I always remember that, because she said, oh, you know, if she had such a good shrink. And I said, doesn't she have any friends? She doesn't need a shrink. You go to a friend who has a lot of patience and you dump on them. And one day you're ready for them to dump on you. You know, you exchange dampness and you make yourself happy. And I'm learning it. I'm trying to, and I'm going to do it. So I'm just reminding you all. So as healers, we need to decide to be happy, to appreciate our bodies, to appreciate what we have, to appreciate that we have good energy. That's why we can be healers. Eat nice food, you know, like love the carrots and celeries. I love celeries. I adore celeries. I'm a bit funny, but I sometimes I crave it. It's crazy. So, you know, eat something that's healthy, that it gives you pleasure. It doesn't mean that sometimes you don't drink a glass of wine. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that as a healer you don't, you know, have a nice meal. Some people are vegetarian. It's good. It's nice. But, you know, we are not. But we are going to talk about this when we're going to talk about the work itself, you know, the preparation, physical preparation for it. Yeah. So here we are, have a sort of healthy lifestyle, moderation in everything, moderation in everything. So, you know, the physical side, you have a diet, a proper diet, alcohol. If you don't drink alcohol, it's even better. Exercise, sleep, relaxation, free time, volunteering. And in the mental, emotional, you have positive thoughts, prayer, meditation, you know, balance work and life. Sometimes it's difficult, studies, affection, love. So we can do these things that will make us more at peace with ourselves. You know, in some of the things we can do. I know that it's very difficult. You know, sometimes you work in places where they seem to demand more and more of us nowadays. And a lot of people get sacked, and you, if you are not, you have to work for the people who left. And they demand that you are there 8-9 hours a day. And sometimes it's difficult because you have to earn your money, you have to pay your rent and everything. But we need to find things that will balance that. So maybe, you know, like have a dance, you know. We're going to talk about this tomorrow. But have a little dance, just put some music, just get some Rolling Stones and you shake. Or if you like, other dance, you dance a ballet, if you did it for a child, just do something, just relax, just take the world out. And it helps, because then when you come, you will have more energy, because there is that joy, have the joy of life. Can you move it? So the standard device of healers: feel with self-control, think with elevation, speak constructively, study always, and serve more. This is from an American physician and psychologist and philosopher. So, that's Jesus talking to the Samaritan woman. And you probably know the story. Okay, so now we go into types of healing. Does anybody like to ask a question, or everybody understood everything? Well, sometimes it's very difficult, because if we have this big problem, and it's there, isn't it? It's almost like it's hitting you over the head, and it's difficult to get rid of it. What I do personally, if I have something like that, when I go to receive healing, I say, please, Jesus, take this from me. I'm giving it to you. That's what I say, while I am having the healing. So other people will probably say something else or whatever, I think sometimes it works, or even if you're not receiving healing, but you are in that situation. A friend of mine actually said something that she taught her daughters, and she taught me. She said she imagined that she has this big towel, and she put, this is this problem, that's that problem, that, and then she tie a knot, like one of those things that Charlie Chaplin used to, do. And then said, there you are, Jesus, I'm giving it to you. Please take care of this for me. And, I think something like this can help, but, other people may have different things. But just give it to God. I'm sending it back to the universe. Or sometimes, something I do, we used to, you write everything down. Just write down everything that's bothering you or making you suffer or something. And then you just do like a little ritual, put fire to it. So I'm sending it back to the universe. I don't need this anymore. And pray and ask God for help to fill the gap because sometimes when we have pain or we have problems or something, and it's solved, it's almost like an emptiness, we almost get used to the pain. We like to suffer somehow, I don't know, probably it's our past, between ourselves, when we're kneeling in the rocks or something. So we just do, ask for light, for peace, to get into the place where the pain was, just to feel with light and peace in your heart. I think that probably would help. Just suggestions, you find things for your own. Yeah, anyone else? Yes?
I saw in your table that one of the items for the alcohol.
Yes.
And it's like, I think like it's a real polemic topic. How long before we should like stop? I mean, like we are healers, and then we are going to work with the heal next Sunday, and then how long time before we have to stop to be able to make the right job we have to do?
Well, if you are going to give healing, you shouldn't drink at all.
But, yeah, but I mean, how long time before? How many days? Or how long?
It's interesting, because if you are going to give healing in the next week, I think it's better not to. Because alcohol, it goes into your bloodstream and takes a long time to clear. And, before people used to think that, you drink, I drink a lot of water and tomorrow will be all right. And now we know, because they've been arresting people, at least probably here in Ireland as well, for sure, during Christmas and things, they were arresting people because they think they are clear, they slept and everything, but they still as much as drunk as the night before. So, you know, they are not reacting as quick as possible because it takes a long time for the alcohol to go through the bloodstream and everything. So if you know you're going to give healing, it would be better not to drink at all. I mean, eventually probably don't. I myself drink sometimes a glass of wine, you know, if I'm in a meal with friends or something, but it's very, very rare, very, very rare. And, you know, eventually probably you wouldn't. Because also I think it goes with food as well. If you eat a lot of heavy food, a lot of meat and everything, and it's your body. I think one of the things is like somebody once asked me, all about sex. Because sometimes people think, and she asked. And the thing is, it's not that there's anything wrong. It's just that certain activities, and if you eat a very heavy meal, especially a lot of meat and drunk a lot and everything, your body is working full time, full speed to clear all that amount of food and drink or the waste of energy that you had. So it's not that, oh, you can't do it because it's sin. It's not like that. It's just you won't be able to heal in as much as you can because your body is not there. Your body is taking care of saving itself. So if someone is drinking, you know, have a drink and everything, their liver is completely going berserk, trying to get the new molecules and the new cells and everything to renew because it's being bombarded. So it's trying to save itself, or the digestion, the whole digestion, the system is, or that energy that was wasted and everything. The body is trying to replenish itself, to save itself from whatever it is. So your body is not present. So you shouldn't be giving healing if you're in that situation, because your body is working for itself. And maybe that would be a day to sit down. So that's one of the things that we need to discipline ourselves for healing and mediumship work as well. Yes?
Yeah, because concerned to alcohol, I learned in Germany when I did my driving license. It takes at least 9 hours until the alcohol, and then they cannot be faced anymore. But as Silvia said, I agree as well. It depends, in my opinion, how moderate you drink. She is right, better to avoid alcohol. But at least if you are working, for example, in the next Sunday to do a healing, of course it should better
Not to have it,
not to
yeah.
have any alcohol. 1 glass or some amount of alcohol took 9 hours.
Yes, but yes, a glass of wine, but
A glass of wine.
but also, you know, if you drink, like I think probably here they have pints as well, isn't there? If you bring 2-3 pints of beer, for the next 48 hours, your body will be diluting all the alcohol on that. You know, that goes straight into the bloodstream. So it's better if you are someone who really enjoys your drink, you shouldn't give healing at all, basically. But you know, if you're on a dinner with friends, you have 1-2 glasses of wine, and it's fine. And you during a meal, you know, it's something that you can do. It's not a problem. And of course, if you're not going to work the same day or the next day, you know, give a few days as well. And eventually, many of those things we won't be doing. So, because also, I mean, one of the things with alcohol is that can get very addictive. And I'm going to tell something personal here. Sometimes it was very, very cold, you know, and I used to warm a glass of milk. And somebody said, oh, why don't you put a little cognac in it? It's really nice. It warms you up. So I did, you know, I put a little cognac, but like a little bit. It was not, you know, like gallon or anything, a little bit. And I drank, it was really nice, warmed me up, went to bed, went to sleep, and it was fine. And, you know, a couple of days, I did this, a couple of days more, and when it was really cold, it was freezing. And then one day I'm sitting there watching the telly, and I feel the taste in my mouth of the milk and the cognac. And I feel like drinking it, you know. I'm going to go and make some milk with cognac. And I thought, no, I am not going to drink for you. Because I didn't want it. It wasn't something I did it because something was warm, but that day I felt it. I could taste it. It was in my mouth, you know. And going back again, when we read André Louise, that the people are there, some people are getting used to it, you know. And I must say, at that time, I wasn't very active doing healing because I had to stop for a while because I had to do other things. Something happened as well that I wasn't able to do. So at that time, I wasn't giving any healing or doing any mediumship work. I wasn't doing any spiritual work at all that time. But, you know, I said, no, I am not going to. And I never did it again. Because that's one of the problems. You get used to it. Because you're not drinking for yourself, you're drinking for other people. And it's easy. But now, I'm doing my gospel at home. I study the Gospels every day. So I don't have this kind of needs anymore. Because my house is now protected. Because that's another thing that's important as well, to do the gospel at home, to get 10, 15 minutes, at least once a week, that you sit down and read a passage. It doesn't need to be from the Bible. It can be from a very good book, something that's spiritual. And then you read it, you talk about it, and, you know, read a message, say a prayer, and send prayers to people who I need, who, you know, for the world peace, for friends that you know. And for that 15 minutes, you put a little glass of water there and say, thank God for everything. And that's it. It's very, very important. It's very, very important for everyone to do the gospel at home, but most especially for the workers, healers. It's very, very important. Avoid problem like, you know, go there and make some milk, you know. So, I'm telling you a lot of secrets here, but I think sometimes it's very difficult because I like you to know that I'm not perfect. When I say we need to do it, I told you a few things that I struggled with. It doesn't come easy, you know, because sometimes I see people. I remember someone once saying, but Chico, he was a missionary. He came here in a mission. He was a mission. He was, absolutely. I mean, he was exceptional. Chico Xavier was exceptional. But it didn't fall from the sky for him either. He had to do the work. Like we have to do the work. We have missions too. The gospel tells us that we come, each one of us, have a mission to fulfill. Some of us is to look after our family. Some of us is to work in a place. Some of us is to do something. We are where we need to be. So we have this mission. And it's difficult. It's not easy. You know, sometimes you want to do something. Oh, I want to go to a party, and I want to do... But no, I'm going to the meeting tomorrow, so I better, you know, stay at home. That part wouldn't be very good. And I tell you another thing, another personal experience. When I first started studying about Spiritism and everything, do I have time to do this? I had a colleague at work. She absolutely hated it. Because she thought Spiritism was like the devil things, you know, and she felt, because she was a Baptist, and she was very, very, she didn't like it, didn't like it at all. But it was my path, I was going, and I, you know, told her and everything. And I remember after some time had passed, and I came home, I came to work in the morning, and she said to me, because usually she used to watch movies, and television, she would go to sleep. She would never see a film to the end. So she would always ask me how the film ended. And one day when I came to work in the morning, she said, oh, you know, I was going to call you yesterday because there was this film with Richard Gere, which I used to like him a lot, I still do. But I didn't think, after coming from your meeting, you would like to watch that kind of film. So something in me must have changed enough for her to recognize that maybe wasn't what I would like to do, watch that kind of film after coming from one of my meetings. That was a big lesson for me, because people recognize you. They know that you're changing. They know that you're doing things. It was very special to learn that, because we were continuing the same way, but she saw that something must have changed. So we need to recognize those things, that we are improving, and it's good. So anyway, now we're going to the types of healing that we have. We have absent healing, collective, individual, here's laying of hands, and the reinforce, which depends on the needs of the patient. So absent healing is when you know someone is ill, you know who they are, or even if you don't know who they are, there is a person who knows who they are. So you say, we are going to pray for that person at 7 o'clock or whatever. So if you know who they are, you pray and you think of that person and you send your thoughts and ask prayers for them. Ask God to bless them. That's absent healing. The person is not there. Or sometimes even in the center, when a person is ill and cannot come to the center, then we can send them prayers. And it's a point here that's important as well. Even though we can give healing and everything, it's better to do it at the center where everybody is working, because there is a lot of prayer, there is a lot of protection there. There is a lot of, the spirits, as we said before, the spirits have already prepared the ambient. So as much as possible, it's better for the person to come to the center and you give healing in the center. But if you need to go out and give healing outside to somebody else, never go alone. Always try to go with someone else, because you don't know the situation of the place where you go and everything. Okay? And also, this is not, you can go there, because it's just that you don't know what kind of ambient it will find there. So it's for your protection and the protection of the person as well, because you don't know sometimes in what situation people are. So it's good to have somebody else. So that's absent healing. Or if you ask me to pray for someone and I don't know the person, so I mentalize you, you mentalize the person, and we both send the prayers to them as well. Yeah. So in collective healing, it's like we are all here, then we all pray and ask God for help to each one of us, and then there'll be a healing for everyone. That's what they call collective healing. And individual healing is probably what you do in your centers, isn't it? That you go there, a hand just above the person's head, and is what they call the laying of hands. Now, that's very important, because as we saw before, when Andrea Louise said, first of all, the healing is focused, the spirit benefactor focuses the healing and comes to the medium's head, yeah? And then it will go through their arms. But sometimes you find in places, and I've seen this, again and again, the healers will sit with their hands like this. Please don't ever do that. The healing is not coming to your hand. The healers, when they are preparing, they are praying, they turn their hands up, like waiting for the healing to come to their hands. Don't do it. If healing is not there, it comes to your mind. It comes to the chakra, and it comes through the whole body. Yeah? That's because we should have thought about the chakras or the centers of force. In Spiritism, we call it centers of force, but it's called chakras. That's more known. That we have the 7 main ones. That is the crown, the throat chakra, the plexus, genetic, and all of the centers of force. And they are just like electric stations. In reality, it goes all over our body. it's in a molecular level that the chakras unite with the whole of the body. This is like it having the main electric station for this, and that's how the healing will go through. So you don't need to move around like this. A lot of people will make lots of movement, and can be quite distressing sometimes, because if a person's not well, or especially if you have a psychological, spiritual problem, and someone starts going like this with their hands, it scares them, frighten them, and it's not necessary. The spirits will guide your hand. So if you just, when you pray to God, you can have your hands at your side or here, and you just ask for God for help, that you're offering yourself, your services, to serve others, whatever way you find it easier to pray. And the healing will come to your chakras. It will come down and will go through your hands. And if you just put your hand above the person's head, yeah, and you find, I personally do this. I fold my arms like that, and I fold my hands as well in a cup like that, because I'm a very short person. And if someone is very tall and sits there, and sometimes people will bend their heads, so I can't reach them. I'm giving healing to their backs, So, and if I stretch too much, then my arms hurt. So while I'm giving healing to someone, I'm in pain. So I always bend my arms, and I don't put any stress here. So I don't have to be thinking about my problem and difficulty while I'm trying to help somebody else. And I just cup the hand, because it's better than to keep, some people put their hands like that. But if you do that, if you try it. Put your hands up like that. And try to stand your fingers. Do you feel the stretch? Imagine you're there and somebody's giving healing to someone. Soon you start moving your feet, and you start getting worried about your fingers and the arms hurt. So if you fold it, just bend it, just slightly, and you fold a little bit of your hands like that, it's comfortable for you. You can, give healing quite some time. So that's one of the things. Can we move on? So that we done that. You see, I don't follow things, I find it difficult. But that, you can see the door in there. We've already spoken about this. Move on, please, darling. Thank you. The next one, yes. So the absent healing is the augmented radiation, as they call it as well. Can be alone in public. It's a method that, you mentalize, you think about the person, and you establish a connection. And they say here that, to direct the thought, giving the counterfluid energetic currents. But like I said, you mentalize the person and you focus. It's like a ray, it will go. Or if we ask someone who knows the person, we mentalize the person, and they will spread the people they know. So it's a way of, Move on to the next one. Can you move on? Yes, please. Everybody read that. We had already spoken about that. So this absent healing page. Oh, yes. At one point that Andrea talked about, if someone has contagious disease. I mean, he was writing this book, in the 1940s, 50s, that sometimes people didn't know they had contagious diseases. Nowadays, if you go to the doctor, they will know immediately that you have a illness and tell you not to go because you have a virus or something. So, this almost doesn't happen. But if you go to healing to someone, it's better to have absent healing. If they have a illness that you can be sick as well. Because, like he says, discipline is so of efficiency. Because there's no point in going to give healing and you get sick. So you can do absent healing in that case, and then you can bless water and send them the water. Okay? And collective healing, we said, like if you're all here, we can pray for ourselves, and we can send healing to all. And then there's the self-healing, which we can do as well when we're not well. it's self-healing. It's, you pray and you ask God to help you, to come, and the healers will come, and they will help you. Must be heartfelt. There is one point that's very, very extremely important to know, and André Luiz makes this point, I think it's in Missionaries of Light, because Alexander, his mentor, has explained to him, in the spiritual world, the spirits, the more advanced the spirits, the more they are advanced, the harder they work. So they do different tasks. They do many, many different tasks. But the spirits who work for healing will only work for healing. While they are there in their healing mission, they will not do any other work. They study a lot, they have to learn a lot, and they are completely dedicated for the work of healing. They will not do different tasks. They will only do. That's why they can be available if you are there, you feel that you need some help. Please, God, help me. I really need some help. Have some support. I have a problem, or I have a headache, or whatever, or you had bad news or something. Then they can come to you anytime. They're available as well. So it's important, and I think this shows us, as well as healers, our responsibility, and we'll talk about that. We're going to, if you go back a bit, then we put this towards the end, because that is the end. You won't believe it, but we're nearly coming to a close. With many things we said, but it's always, like I said to you, I'm repetitive quite a lot. It's a bit boring. But being a healer, being a medium even, because a healer is a medium, and anybody can do it. Anybody can do it. You need to know, you need to want to help someone. Your heart needs to be out there and say, I'm going to try to help someone. And goodwill takes you a long way in this journey. But you need to know what you're doing as well. It's very important. If you probably all know that if someone is drowning and you don't know how to save that person, and you jump in the water to save a drowning man, you probably will die. And they will be saved. Because you need to know what to do. And I saw this once in a swimming pool, amazing as it seems. A person used to come in and just jump in the water, So nobody ever paid attention at her, because she would go and jump, like she would dive, not jump, dive. And she didn't know how to tread water. She didn't know how to stand in water, So unless she was immediately swimming, she couldn't stay in the water. She was, and then someone said, I think she's drowning. I said, no. And nobody, people saw it. And they thought, oh, no, she's not. But then, said, no, she is drowning. And she went to help her, and she went like this with her hands. And she pulled her down. And I was holding onto the side, because I wasn't a very good swimmer then, and I just put my hands to pull them, and so she was able to swim back. But she nearly died. My friend nearly died trying to save this other girl, because she's in panic. So you needed to know what you're doing as well. When we talk about vital principle, centers of force, energy, and everything, this is important. You needed to read. You needed to study. The spiritual doctrines is full of literature. We are blessed to have a lot of things in Portuguese, but now a lot of things being translated. So if you're English, you can still read it. And we needed to study to know what we're doing, because you need to know. Good will take you most of the way, and then you need to know what you're doing. Say for instance, when you, because also it's a great responsibility of what you're doing, because you find people with big problems that they have spiritual around them, and they will attack you, and you feel it. You feel it. So if you are strong and you know what you're doing, you can ask for help, you can ask for protection, because what this studying and learning will do, you know who you are. You know your possibilities, your capabilities, and you know when something is strange. That's very important to know, that you feel that you're being affected, because sometimes you are. I remember once giving healing to someone, and I could feel she was completely connected. She was always crying. She was completely connected outside. And she wasn't receiving any healing because the connection was very strong to spirit, always came with her outside. So what I did, I started praying, send the healing to him out there. Please God, the healing I was in my mind, I was, please God, bless that person. May the healing light be with him. Surround him in peace and love. The benefactors come and help them. And then I felt he was helped. I felt the healing reached and he was helped. And then I could feel that the healing was going to her. And that was, you just did it. One of those things that sometimes you find when you're giving healing. But then she came to me later on and she said, you're very good, help. Because I've never felt so well receiving healing before. I never, I feel, I come out here, I get healing and I leave in the same. But today I really felt I received it. So, things like that, because that's why I remember, otherwise I wouldn't remember the story at all. And this means the responsibility of having to learn, having to do things. Because if you sense something, send to them. They are needed. Because, like I said before, there are a lot of, everything is obsessors. Do you know, obsessors are our friends. Could be members of our own family from the past. Could be someone that we harmed, that we did something so horrible to them. And they are not being able to forgive us. Because, being around Spiritism for a long time and try to learn a few things, but I think from this incarnation, if I die today, tomorrow, I think I learned one thing. The need to forgive. Because you don't forgive other people, you forgive yourself. It's for yourself that you forgive. It clears you from whatever it is that the person done. It's very difficult. It's very, very difficult. Especially, when we are here, blessed, with, everybody loving each other, we all sending good thoughts, good vibrations for one another here, and we feel like we can, get in a big embrace, and we have all the spiritual benefactors here with us, lots of them, lots of people coming here to learn about healing as well. A lot of people very hurt that are here as well, because this city is full of pain, so they're here as well. And it's easy, but when we're in a situation, it requires more, because, like Jesus said, forgive your enemies, do good to those who do harm to you, Because if you don't, what you'd like the others, like the Pharisees, you need to be a little extra. And sometimes it's very, very difficult, but we need to learn how to do it. And because we are free. Even if the person does not accept it, we are free from them, And there are a lot of people who are suffering and they want to harm us. But if we forgive as well, that is one thing. No matter what they can send to you will not reach. Because once you put yourself in that frame of mind of forgiveness or doing good, of praying for that person, you lift yourself up. Your vibration starts up here and theirs is here. So whatever is coming that way will not reach you because you're already up there. So if anything, you're always doing something for yourself. I had a big thing happen to me at work with one of my bosses who tortured me. He really did. And for a long time, whenever I thought of the things he did to me, I became ill. I really did. My stomach went, like knots like that. And it was almost like I was there again with him, humiliating me, saying horrible things to me. It was all untrue. And for a long time I did that. Then I did one of those alpha courses. Don't know if you've ever heard of these alpha courses they have in England. It's the Church of England who does that. It's a study of the Gospels and things. It's quite nice. But they have like a meditation, something in the end of it. So, people were all over. And I was praying, and I sat there quiet, and suddenly, it's like I was coming up, trying to raise up. And I came up, and I was in this garden. Very rustic, very simple, but beautiful, beautiful. And Jesus was there, imagine. Jesus was there. And he walked with me, and he opened this little gate, and I came in. It was like he was allowing me to get into this space. So I'm walking, and he has his hand like this, here on my shoulder, walking me. And we're sitting in this chair, in this kind of seat there in a garden. And I felt, I can't explain to you what I felt. It was so wonderful. It was so wonderful. It was like in heaven. And suddenly, I see that man in front of me, my ex-boss. He's standing there in front of me. It was like somebody hit me in the face. And I woke up, I came out of the meditation. I'm sorry, Jesus was there, but I had to leave. And then because it was so shocking. I was in such a state of peace. But then I thought, no, but I'm in this wonderful space. There must be a reason why this man is standing here in front of me. So I made an effort. And I closed my eyes again, and I was there again. Everything, nothing had changed, and he was there. And I said to him, I got up and I said to him, I looked him in the eye, and I said to him, if ever, at any time, at any moment, I ever did anything that made you treat me the way you did, please forgive me, because I am forgiving you. So please, if I did anything, forgive me, because I am going to forgive you, and that's it. I forgive you everything. And suddenly he was gone. I was okay. Then Jesus took me back with his loving hands, and I could hear the one thing that was really clear. It was beautiful, the flowers, perfume, and the water, very gentle. As I was walking, I could hear that kind of gentle falling of the water. So I went back, and that was fine. And later on, I thought of it, and I was telling this lady who was there, and suddenly I didn't feel any of the pain. My stomach didn't go crazy in knots. I didn't get all anxious and shaky and upset, and so it was like something I remember for a very long time that happened a long, long time ago and didn't affect me at all, and was the most wonderful thing that I ever learned in my life. So I felt that it's important for us to forgive, for us to be free of whatever it is. And as healers, if we wanted to help others, we needed to have that extra. We needed to have a little more than the taxpayers and, the tax collectors, like Jesus called them Pharisees. You have to be more because they do the same. They love those who love them and things. So this is very, very important. And it's important for us to realize those things because healing is a very important thing. You are there. As we read, with Andrea Louise before, what we do is we are changing things in a molecular level in somebody else's body. So we need to be as much as possible, as good as we can. It doesn't mean that we are perfect. We have problems, we have difficulties, but we learn to face them. We learn we're going to solve them. We ask for help when we need to. I can't cope with this, I'm really in difficulty, help me. Go to a friend, go to a therapist. If you feel, you can't do it, don't do it. But see yourself, get to know yourself, inner reform. Try to be the more, because the light is already within us. Just make an effort to get, be like Aladdin, get a lamp and start polishing it, and the beautiful genie will come out. And I think that's, in conclusion, can we? I mean, that's what Peter said to the person he was coming into. I think he was coming into Jerusalem, and there was someone at the door, the gates of the city. And he said, well, they were begging. And he said, well, I can give you gold, but what I give thee, Peter said, silver and gold have I none, but such as I have, I give thee in the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth. Rise up and walk. And he took him by the right hand and lifted him up, and immediately his feet and ankles received strength. This is remarks from the Gospels. And that's what we need to do. We're not perfect, we don't have gold or anything, but we have a helping hand. Goodwill, if we really wanted to help someone, if we really desire, halfway through this, we learn a few things, we read the literature, we read good books, we try to have positive thoughts, positive views about the world, about ourselves, and then we become better as human beings. And if we do that, if we make an effort to better ourselves, to enlighten ourselves, then we become better at everything. Better being friends, better being mothers, better being wives, better being healers, mediums, or whatever it is that we are. Because this is our life for a moment, a very fleeting moment. Because we are eternal beings, we're going to have this forever. And it's easy to think, I have other chances, I'm going to reincarnate again. But honestly, personally, I don't want to go back to another planet back there. I've already been sent once. I don't want to go back again. Now I'm going to go forward with everybody on Earth, So we just try to be, and it's not, like the Gospel says, you don't have to wear a hair shirt. You don't have to be friendly, don't go out, don't do things, or, like you're saying, you can't drink, or we are completely, no, you can enjoy life. You have to live in the world, but you don't have to be in the world. You don't have to be exactly the world, but we need to live in the world. We need to learn how other people, because otherwise we put ourselves in the sanctimonious, that we think everybody's inferior. No, we are like them. They have struggles. We learn a little bit more. To those who are given, much will be asked. We spend, if you think about all of you here, you could be with your friends, you could be with your family, you could be doing anything, but you chose to be here for a reason. And there must be something in this talk that was very important for all of us. I came all the way from London to be here, and it's really nice. And you are here as well. There must be a reason why we are connecting. And we have friends. We have a glass of wine. That's not forbidden. We have our lives. But we have also that life of dedication, because we are these eternal beings. We are the angels. We are in a future. We've already achieved certain things that probably in the past we didn't. So we are going forward. So that's all I have to say to you. It's the most wonderful thing, because, sometimes it's very hard. It's cold. It's freezing. There's snow, and you think, oh my God, if somebody invites you to go to a concert and you really want to go. But no, I'm going to my meeting today. I'm going to give healing today. I'm going to, and you sacrifice anything. Oh God, I wish I could go home. I'm so tired today. But then you go, and in those days, when you make that effort, there is always someone said, gosh, that healing you gave me was so nice, it made me feel so good, or something, or you have a message or something, and you think all the sacrifice is worth, and it's not that much, honestly. I mean, exercise, eat nice health food, you know, not drink too much that, you know, you don't suffer. And go there, and because, you know, sometimes even if you're tired or something, and after you finish giving healing, you feel so good. You could go start the day again, you know, from there. So I think we always get a lot more than we give. We really do. In the service, you know, in talking to someone in the street who is living in the street. I don't know how it's here in Dublin, but in London now, you almost can walk with people who are sleeping on the floors, you know. It's so sad. And sometimes I just talk to them and ask their name, you know, because they are there, invisible. And you have no idea of their eyes, you know, it's like they suddenly they shine, that somebody stopped to ask how their name was, you know, because they become things invisible. And we need to be aware of these things. We need to be that they're part of us. We are part of them. Maybe next time we'll be there. We don't know what life will bring to us. So the more we give, the more we send out, the more we try to reach out to people, we get a lot more back than we give. So I don't know if that was, you know, what you came here to hear or to learn. But there is a lot of responsibility, there is a lot of commitment in doing this work. There is a lot of studying, but you learn so much. It's so wonderful. Learning is the most wonderful thing in the world. You get a book and another world is opening up to you, you know, so it's really good. I mean, I love that, but I'm sure you all do. And, you know, that's what I have to say. I try to pass on to you experiences that I had, difficulties that I still struggle with all the time, because I'm not perfect, you know. The fact that I came here, maybe I know a couple of things more than you do, but I'm sure if you were here and I was sitting there, I would be learning a lot from you, because I'm sure you all have a lot of great experiences and you could teach me a lot. So, you know, that's what we have to say.